Months of interviews, endless assessments, background checks, competition so fierce that most applicants never even make it through the first round. The candidates sitting in that room have already beaten impossible odds to reach the final stage of a job that could change their lives forever. All that's left is one last exam. But the moment they turn over their papers, something feels wrong. The questions don't look like any test they've prepared for. The rules don't make sense. And as confusion spreads across the room, one terrifying realization begins to take shape. This isn't the kind of exam anyone expected. 8 candidates walk into what they believe is the final stage of a hiring process for a lucrative corporate position. Some of them take quiet moments to hype themselves up with motivational self-talk. Others touch up their appearance. The room has dim lighting, uniformly spaced desks, and cameras positioned at different angles. Once everyone gets into their seats, a guard carrying a gun walks. Behind him comes a man who does not give a name, only a title, the Invigilator. He acknowledges the journey each candidate has endured to reach this point. They are the finalists, he tells them. Every prior stage has been cleared. All that stands between them and their dream jobs is this final test. Then he lays out the rules. Inside this hall, no external law holds any weight. The only authority is the law of the exam. No one is to speak to the guard or the invigilator. Damaging your paper, whether on purpose or by accident, translates to immediate disqualification, as does leaving the room for any reason. They have 80 minutes. One question. He asks if there are any questions. Silence. He wishes them luck, sets the timer, and leaves. The candidates flip their papers over and find nothing. Minutes tick by, and the confusion only deepens. Eventually, one of the women decides to take matters into her own hands and begins writing on her paper, writing why she deserves the job. Within moments, the guard escorts her out, her paper considered ruined. She pleads at the door as it locks behind her. It is candidate number 5 who eventually spots the loophole. The rule specifically says they cannot communicate with the guard or the invigilator. It says nothing about each other. He shares this discovery, and the group slowly begins to work together, trying to find out the questions. Through all of this, the man sitting in the corner has not said a single word. When someone tries to introduce himself by name, number 5 shuts it down. Instead, he proposes nicknames that reveal nothing personal. The quiet man in the corner gets called Deaf. The other men are named after their skin tones, brown, black, and white. The women become blonde, brunette, and dark, each named for their hair. White says that there is no rule against standing up, so he does. The guard doesn't flinch. With that, the group understands they are free to move around the room and begin to investigate. Dark comes up with the idea that the question might be written on the paper in invisible ink, triggered by light. She holds her paper up to the light source overhead and finds nothing, but she insists the others try with their own papers since the question might only appear on one of them. Everyone does so except Deaf. White borrows his paper and checks it without result. Black takes the theory further, suggesting they might need UV or X-ray light to see it. The group starts searching the room for a switchboard that could control other types of lighting. When that search turns up empty, they decide to find the light source themselves. Blonde, who discovers strips of emergency lighting built into the room. The only way to trigger emergency mode is to create one, which means destroying all the regular light bulbs. Brown pushes back hard, calling it too great a risk. They put it to a vote, and the majority wins. The bulbs are smashed one by one until the room is filled with a blue-tinted emergency glow. Everyone dives toward their papers, searching for any hidden marking. Everyone except Deaf. Nothing appears. Brunette notices that the strips themselves have an outer layer that isn't lit. She reasons that peeling it back might release UV rays. They use the heel of Dark's shoe to strip the casing away, revealing a second light source underneath. Again, nothing. The clock is now down to 60 minutes. White calls for fresh ideas, and while the group brainstorms, he notices something useful. Candidate number 2's paper is technically fair game since she was already disqualified. They crowd around her abandoned desk and try rubbing a pencil across the surface to lift any hidden impression. Nothing comes up. White tears the paper into pieces and distributes them for further experiments. He even urinates on one strip to test whether the writing is liquid activated. That too fails. A sharp argument breaks out between Black and White over what to try next, and it only stops when Deaf begins to cry. Quietly at first, then with enough weight to silence the room. Through tears, he starts speaking in French, rambling about how the paper is a mirror and they should look at what it reflects back at them. The others brush it off and return to their theories. Then Brown speaks, and the room goes still, because Brown almost never speaks. His theory is unsettling. The company's board members have placed private bets on which candidate will crack under pressure first. Dark finds it hard to believe that powerful executives would waste time watching strangers fall apart. Brown disagrees. People with that kind of wealth don't need more money, they need stimulation. Everyone starts throwing out theories about who is behind it all. Accusations start mixing with insults, and the group begins to break. Brunette cuts through the noise with something concrete. She knows the company, she already works there in HR, and she's confident the CEO would never delegate something this important. No one has ever actually seen him, but his fingerprints are on every decision the company makes. She says she applied for a senior position. White admits he never applied at all, he was approached and recruited. The others applied through normal channels. They were all told not to ask questions about the company or its work. Brunette fills in the gaps. The company is called Birog, a pharmaceutical company worth $20 billion annually. Years ago, when a mysterious virus began wiping out young people across the world. Birog was the first to develop a cure, and that discovery got them to the top. Black says that maybe Birog has already found a cure for the deadly new disease currently killing people worldwide and simply hasn't gone public yet. Dark leans in, interested. White clocks her reaction immediately and asks whether she's infected. She shuts it down. She walks up to the guard and lifts a lighter from his pocket without a word exchanged, technically within the rules. Her eyes drift to the fire alarm on the ceiling. The plan is to trigger the sprinkler system with the lighter and let the water develop whatever might be hidden on the papers. Dark climbs onto a chair but can't reach the alarm. White hands her a rolled piece of paper. She lights it and holds the flame close enough to set off the sprinkler. Water rains down across the room. The papers don't change. While the guard moves toward the group, Dark unrolls the burning paper, and it turns out to be her own exam sheet. She screams at him as she's dragged out. Black snaps. He tells White he's going to punch his lights out. The moment he says it, the room goes dark. Everyone freezes. The lights are voice-activated. They warn each other to watch their words. Then White turns his attention to Def, who has started crying again. He sits directly in front of him, lowers his voice, and manipulates Def into tearing up his own paper and eating it. The guard steps in and removes Def too. Black confronts White about his behavior. White is unapologetic. Fewer competitors means better odds for the rest of them, he argues. Then he claims he knows what the question is. Before anyone can respond, Black punches him unconscious, ties him to a chair, and muffles him with a tie. When White wakes, Brunette unties his gag. His first words are a request for medication. He says he carries the virus and needs to take a pill every hour or he will die. Black searches his pockets and finds nothing. The group suspects manipulation, but White insists someone in the room took his pill, and he promises to reveal the question in exchange for its return. Then he slips out of consciousness again, his body trembling. Black says he's having a seizure. The group scrambles. With 15 minutes left, they start checking each other. Brunette zeroes in on Brown almost immediately and finds the pill stuck beneath his desk on a piece of chewing gum. She tries to get it to White, but Brown grabs it and throws it into a vent. While the others work to retrieve it, a desperate Brunette walks straight up to the camera and begs the invigilator to intervene. The moment she does, she is disqualified and removed. With the room now down to 4, Blonde digs the pill out of the vent using a bobby pin and gets it to White. He stabilizes. When he's fully conscious again, everyone demands the answer he promised. White says the candidates are the answer. There is no question hidden in the paper. The question was never about the paper. The person left standing at the end of the 80 minutes is the answer itself. The others absorb this. Then White moves. He lunges for the guard's gun. Black gets there first and turns it on White. White doesn't look afraid. He tells Black that he won't pull the trigger. He rushes Black, takes the gun away, and prepares to use it. He doesn't get the chance. The gun requires the guard's fingerprint to fire. White forces the guard's hand to the weapon and swings it toward the remaining candidates. His message is clear: walk out voluntarily or things get worse. Brown weighs his options and chooses to leave. Blonde starts moving toward the door, then stops just short of the threshold and shouts, "Lights out." The room plunges into darkness and White shoots sporadically. When the lights return, Black is on the floor, a wound on his chest. White turns and finds Blonde, 1 foot still inside the room. He raises the gun. Then he notices the timer has stopped. Convinced he has won, he addresses the camera directly and declares himself the winner. The guard walks over and shows him the display. 20 seconds still remained when he spoke. Talking to the invigilator is a disqualifying offense. White is out. It is later revealed that Def quietly adjusted the timer at some point while the group was consumed with arguing. The last person standing is Blonde. She walks back into the hall and finds Def's glasses on the floor, knocked off during his removal. She puts them on, holds up her paper, and for the first time sees the words Question 1 printed on the page. Then the door opens and Def walks back in. He introduces himself as the CEO of B-Rog. He was in the room the entire time, watching from the inside. Blonde says the word no. The CEO and the invigilator both smile. She got it. The question was never hidden in ink or light or water. It was asked out loud at the very beginning, when the invigilator looked at 8 nervous candidates and asked, "Do you have any questions?" The correct answer was no. The entire 80 minutes was a test of intelligence and attentiveness, and Blonde is the only one who understood what she was actually being asked. They offer her the position of the CEO's personal secretary. She turns it down. She wants nothing to do with a company that would put human lives at risk the way this test did. The invigilator stops her. Black is not dead. It was not a bullet. It was a capsule developed by B-Rog's own research division, one that enters the body and seals the wound from the inside. It is, in fact, the very cure they have spent years perfecting, a medicine capable of treating any disease known to exist. Blonde looks at Black as he stirs and rises from the floor. She accepts the job. In the end, the quiet man nobody pays attention to is hiding the biggest secret in the room. The candidates spend 80 minutes searching for a question that was never written on the page. The candidate who seems smartest comes closest to winning, only to destroy his own chances at the last possible second. What looks like murder isn't murder at all, and what appears to be a simple job interview is actually something much bigger. That's it for today's story, guys, but before you go, I gotta ask, if you were in the room to write the test, what would have been your theory? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more twisted stories like this. See you in the next one.